And Jenna, Prince Harry has called for a police investigation. We heard his lawyers there. Police have said they will carefully consider the High Court ruling. Given the nature of the findings, a criminal investigation could well be appropriate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think this should just extend to the royal family and celebrities. I think, as Angela mentioned, the Levinson inquiry started due to the horrific murder of a 14-year-old girl back in the day, and it was the inquiries that led to the uncovering of all that. So I think if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And I think if the police are going to pursue it, don't just allow it to be focused on the page 3 stories and the celebrity stories in some of the tabloids. Make it open slather and see if this is still a common occurrence in newsrooms in the UK.
Now, Angela, a great piece in The Telegraph this week about the series The Crown and how it's altered public perceptions of the royal family. To what extent do you think it's true?
Oh, look, it is fictionalised drama. And look, early on, the early series, I would say there were, things that happened, the Queen's relationship with Churchill. I mean, it was more of a historical drama at that stage. But as it's proceeded, we've got obviously closer to the action. And there's a lot of things that were just fantasy in it. I mean, the notion that Prince Philip was somehow responsible for the death of his sister, the idea that Prince Charles, for instance, sat down with the British Prime Minister John Major and made a play for them to elbow out the Queen and for him to take over. Completely erroneous, and people involved in that at that time have come out and said so. But I think what's really interesting is I have daughters who are aged 20 and 23. They're not interested in the royal family, but because of this show, they now feel that they have an understanding of the royal family and that they actually know this family. Whether that's going to play in the royal family's favour in decades to come, who knows? But there's now a familiarity with some of these characters, which I think is really interesting.
And Jenna, I'd like your thoughts on this and also the likely impact of those changed perceptions. Like Angela said, being based on a show that isn't exactly a documentary. We've got a scene here of where the Queen apparently dreams of Tony Blair becoming king. Take a look at this.
Many had been unable to imagine life without Elizabeth II. But after almost 50 years on the throne, it's out with Queen Elizabeth and in with King Tony. New Britain has a new royal family, the Labour Party.
Jenna, your thoughts?
Look, I absolutely love this. I love the fact that some of the writers have decided, look, because we're sick and tired of the royal family being coy about how much they actually like this series, but are slamming it in public, we're going to throw a real cat amongst the pigeons. I think it is actually probably also endemic of our times that we live in, where we take little pieces of the truth and blow them out to be absolute fantasy, and people sort of believe that is true. But King Tony, it sounds like a hybrid of The Sopranos meets The Crown. I love it.
Excellent. Angela, still on the Crown and Tony Blair, parts of the story talk about how Tony Blair tried to modernise the monarchy. Did he do that? And if so, how successful was he?
Such an interesting question. But firstly, Jenna, I hate that scene. I absolutely loathe it. It's totally jumped the shark for me. Yeah. But to your question, Caroline, yes, he did modernise it. And I was in Britain in 1997. I have never witnessed a general election like it. And I've lived in New Zealand and Australia and the UK and witnessed, a series of elections. Tony Blair coming into power in Britain in 1997 to that song, Things Will Only Get Better. Yeah. It brought about Cool Britannia. That was the sort of axis of power between this young, youthful, sort of strident government, and that was very much at odds with the way that the aristocracy and the establishment worked. So there was this huge conflict already at play between monarchy and this modern new government. Then, of course, Diana died later that year, and Tony Blair and his right-hand man, Alistair Campbell, who was a former journalist, very much instructed the Queen, and gently, of course, because she was the monarch, as to how to manage that situation, which we saw depicted so brilliantly in the movie The Queen, which of course was directed by the same person as The Crown. Yes, he was influential. To the extent that the Queen was worried about her standing, I honestly don't believe that. But Britain was different, and because Britain was different, the monarchy had to respond to that. And we are still seeing that now. As social media changes the way that we see the monarchy, the royals are having to respond respond to that. And they're doing it very well. They're very at the forefront of social media and using those channels to transmit their own messages.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a excellent observation, Angela. Jenna, the Sussexes' purse strings appear to be tightening. There are rumours that Meghan wants to reunite with the royals and live at Kensington, but only part-time. I'm not sure if that's viable after the fallout from Endgame, but you'd think there'd have to be some pretty strict conditions if that was to be the arrangement.
Oh, look, I get it. Airbnbs are really tight at this time of year, love. I totally get it, especially in London in winter, I assume. But look, it is interesting. And I wish that the narrative coming out of the Sussex team was not about, you know, money or things like that. It's about the fact that they have two beautiful children that you feel that are just being completely robbed of another part of their family and their heritage. And you just hope for the sake of the kids that bridges are mended in the not too distant future.
And Jenna, staying with you, I've got about a minute left. Camilla is launching her own podcast. How good is this?
I will be counting down the days. Now, Camilla, as we know, is an avid bookworm. We saw it through the pandemic. She regularly put out reading lists of which she was getting into. And I love this. I think she's got the most beautiful, really husky voice. And I love looking forward to that being in my ears. But I'm looking forward to what the Queen Consort is reading, and some of her famous friends like Dame Judi Dench and whoever else are joining her for book club. It's going to be great. Tune in.
Angela, I've got about 30 seconds. Have you got any insights on that?
Oh, I can't wait to hear this podcast. I want her to read out loud a really steamy blockbuster, like a Jilly Cooper or something. Yes. I just think Camilla reading that aloud, that would be awesome.
Look, she played the long game and she won, and it seems like there is absolutely no end to her talents. Ladies, thank you so much for your insights tonight. I really enjoyed that. We'll see you both again shortly.